Today I'd like to talk about the way I see states of awareness in the mind. And something that I've found has been really helpful for me is to categorize awareness in the mind into 3 different types. And I use Sanskrit terms to describe these 3 states. It's helpful for me to have a word specific to these states of awareness. And I say states of awareness, and I really want to differentiate that from states of consciousness. A state of consciousness is something that is kind of on a spectrum. And we can have different states of consciousness depending on what we do, depending on how long we meditate. If you meditate for 30 minutes, you might notice some change in how you feel, how you perceive the world. Sensations might be more vibrant. If you sit even longer, that change may be more pronounced. But a state of awareness, as I'm defining it, is something that's not on a spectrum. And these things don't have to do with necessarily what you're doing. You can't cultivate these states of awareness. Either you're in it or you're out of it. So they're very defined, and we cycle through them constantly throughout our daily life. So the first one, so all 3, I'll name them Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas. So Rajas, R-A-J-A-S, Sattva, S-A-T-T-V-A, and Tamas, T-A-M-A-S. And Rajas is basically the word king or royal. And Rajas refers to the state of awareness which we actually find ourselves in at most points during the day. It's the state of awareness that is not self-aware. It's outwardly aware. It's the one that's caught by the problems or challenges or issues that the mind offers up. The mind says, oh, you've got a meeting coming up today or tomorrow, and then that thought triggers the other thought, oh, I need to prepare in this way or that way, and then that triggers the thought, oh, that person's going to be there and they might challenge me in this way, or however these things go. And then you're in this mind of preparing, of figuring out how to approach the future. It can also be chewing on the past, rumination, trying to get something out of the past. Maybe kicking yourself for something you did, or maybe savoring also something you're proud of. You could be trying to relive something good. You could be trying to remember something, digging through a memory. there's a lot of planning. This is the sort of planning state of awareness, the acquisitional state of awareness. What is it that I want? How am I going to get it? What is it that I did? How do I do that again? Or how do I not do that again? So obviously, this is kind of where we live. Now, sattva is related to the word bodhisattva, if you've heard that before, from Buddhism. Sort of somebody who's generated the desire for knowledge, for awakening. They're on their way to Buddhahood. They are a bodhisattva. Sattva is kind of clarity, lucidity. So sattva is this state of awareness that is actually at the basis of all mind. It's kind of the space that mind is able to operate in, that the acquisitional movements of mind happen within. They happen within this sattva state of awareness, its presence. So, and real quickly, before I get into the dynamic between sattva and rajas, just to say that tamas, and I'm not sure what word tamas relates to, although I think it's related to kind of sloth, oblivion, drowsiness. Tamas is the state of awareness that we have when we are nodding off into sleep. It's dream think. It's that hypnagogic type of awareness. So if you can imagine you're meditating, you're present, maybe you get pulled off on a thought train, that's rajas. You're present, that's sattva. You nod off, that's tamas. When your present mind all of a sudden starts turning, you can be on, we all know that phenomenon of we're having a thought and then all of a sudden the thought is sort of gobbledygook and you wake up maybe and you go, oh, I was dreaming. So that's tamas, and we can talk about that later. But what we really deal with in meditation is this relationship between sattva and rajas. If you go stay at a monastery where they're making you wake up at 3:50 in the morning, then you're going to deal with more tamas mind awareness. But for most of us, it's the relationship between this movement mind, this elsewhere mind, and the right here mind, the right here awareness, the something else awareness. So it's actually super, super helpful to know where you're at in meditation. And here's the funny thing, is that you will only ever be able to say, I am in sattva. You can never say, I am in rajas, or for that matter, tamas. Because the very act of being self-aware of the state that you're in is the function of sattva. You can say, oh, a moment ago, I was in rajas. I was hooked. I was on a thought train. But now I'm here. You can say, a moment ago, I was nodding off and I was starting to have dream logic. But now I'm here. A lot of us, especially early on in meditation, when we tried to do this practice, when we set this intention to bring our mind into the present moment, to abide in sattva, we, of course, get distracted. You set up a 40-minute period, and a lot of people, most people, spend most of the time distracted. I mean, you might bring a lot of energy and manage to stay fairly focused, but if you keep meditating, you're going to have some still do where you're riding on those thought trains. And and they seem important. It seems important often that you think about that. Sometimes it's not. You're just fantasizing. You're just thinking about something that happened or thinking about something that might happen. But then when you come to, when you get dropped off the thought train, most of us usually just immediately go back to our object of meditation. Whatever it was, could be the breath. For example, if it was the breath, you get dropped off, you go, oh, back to the breath, back to the breath, back to the breath. Okay. So that's meditation. There is a way to dig a bit deeper into the experience, to actually help that present moment consciousness, or help your mind become more embedded in that present moment consciousness. And that way is this. When you get dropped off of a thought train, notice that it happened quite without your effort. You're not thinking about something with your full psyche and then have another self come in. You don't split and have another will or choice come in and go, stop thinking. Or just with the awareness, like somehow you're thinking and you generate from some unknown place the awareness. You're thinking, you're not meditating. You don't do that. What happens is you're thinking either for 10 seconds or maybe it's been 5 minutes. But at a certain point, the awareness arises, I would say by grace, right? I mean, accident. But seeing the value that I at least give to this clarity of mind function, this present moment mind, I would say grace. By grace, you're given the awareness that you're thinking, that you're not thinking about meditation, that you're thinking about something else. You're not thinking about the room. You're not thinking about your body. You're not thinking about how you feel currently. You're not thinking about the moment. You're thinking about something else. You're somewhere else. So that actually happens effortlessly. The problem is we don't appreciate that because we immediately jump back into effort. So there's this moment of effortless presence that happens. And we don't think about it, and we just jump back into effort, which can be fine. A lot of us really like effort. We want to engage in effort, and the effort of staying present with a physical sensation will help embed the mind into present moment consciousness. But there's another way to go about it. We can bring our intellect also into the play of meditation. So I would say there's not much intellect. It's actually kind of anti-intellect to, if you're thinking that, if you have the idea that you're thinking, that's wrong. If you're focused on your breath, that's right. That's sort of anti-intellect. There's actually room for intellect and thinking in meditation. It's just that thinking ought to be cultivated. The thinking that ought to be cultivated is present moment thinking. So when you get dropped off of a thought train, here's an example of present moment sattvic, of sattva thinking. You get dropped off, and before you go to your meditation object of your breath, you stay. And you mentally review what just happened. I was focused on my breath. At some point that I don't remember or know, I started not thinking about my breath. And I started thinking about this other thing. And I was gone for 30 seconds, a minute, 5 minutes. You review everything that just happened. And you review how it felt. You review how maybe you feel differently now. I often, as an example, will feel, if I've been steadily in the present moment, that tends to relax my nervous system, which feels good. And then I start thinking about something, and usually it's something that kind of disturbs my nervous system. Could be in a good way, could be in a sort of a slightly stressful, bad way. But it's always good or bad. It's always an activation, a stirring up of the nervous system. And so when I get dropped off of that thought train, I can look back and review actually how my feeling changed because of that. And so that's a learning meditation. You're really learning about your mind. And it's sort of like just putting yourself into the classroom and being your own teacher. Now go back and see what happened and see how did that make you feel. And by savoring that experience in that way, the lessons go deeper. Rather than just dropped off, go back, dropped off, go back. That's fine. But there's something here to be learned and experienced. The other thing that happens is we say, we eventually might get upset with ourselves. And we'll say, I'm so distracted. But that's incorrect. You can't say, I am distracted. You can say, a moment ago, I was distracted. But right now, what you can accurately say, an irrefutable statement of truth, is, I am here. I am here. Here I am. Here I am. And here I am is the goal of the practice of meditation, regardless of technique. Having the mind be in this sattva, here I am, state of awareness, is the goal of meditation, is actually the basic technique. So there's things that do that. You can be focused on the breath, and what that entails is not getting taken away by thought trains. Often you're aware enough, you can see the thought train perhaps arise, an impulse to think arise, and you let it go, and you focus on your breath. But why this recognition of presence as the essence of meditation is important is because it's not about technique. It's not about your breath. It's not about your mantra. It's not about your chakras. It's actually not even about your body. It's about being present. It's about staying in that space where you can say, here I am. And you can stay in that space without going to a meditation object, without doing focus, right? Without turning your mind to then some sort of exercise task. You can explore that space. And there's a difference, I mean, in a way, this is also a technique. It's something that you can choose to do in meditation. And so we can call focusing on the breath a technique, or exploring present moment consciousness a technique. And yet, something in me, in my experience, sees these things, sees it differently. I see it as, one, you open a door to a room and you see something that you can do in there, and so you start doing that thing. The other is you open the door to the room and you look around and you explore. Maybe even better, maybe the way to look at it is go to the forest and your goal is to go for a run. So you go for a great run. You did a disciplined thing that took effort and focus. So that's focusing on the breath. The other thing, this exploring present moment state of consciousness, is you go to a forest and you explore. You look around, you see a gap in the trees where you could go explore. You see a cool looking outcropping of rocks. You see a creek you could get into. There's a different attitude that gets brought into that. And I think that attitude is really helpful for the mind. It's more of a play-based attitude for the mind. And it helps the mind, again, embed itself deeper into this present moment state of awareness, which is what we then want to carry out into the world after meditation. It also is more integrative of our intelligence. Again, going back to, I'm thinking that's bad, I'm focused on my breath, that's good. You can use your intelligence to meditate. And this is one of those ways. You can see, now that I'm present, now that I've gotten dropped off of my thought train, before I go back to my object of meditation, if I ever do, and you can, if that's your inclination. But before I do, let me explore this particular state of awareness called presence. And if you can say, I am present, then you're present. Here's an experiment. You can see, I'm present now. See how much effort it takes to be present. One way you can explore presence is explore it in your body. Send your mind through your body. Send your mind through the room, sounds, the feel of the space. You can even make believe that presence is actually a thing. Push on it if you can. Push on it. Pull it. Start to understand presence as a thing, as a state of awareness, a one that you can be in or not be in. So there's a power, I hope you can see, in cultivating the ability to talk ourselves into a state of presence and keep ourselves there with our intelligence, with our discourse, with our analysis, with our study. It's not quite such a dichotomy as thinking bad, focus good. It's presence. And even if you are not feeling good, often you can be present. And it's often the not feeling good that brings that present moment awareness back in. I mean, that's what happens when we set up the container of meditation. That's why we want it to be a little special. Sitting in a special way. Quiet room. Timer. You're not going to move for that time. or you're walking quietly back and forth and you're not going to look up for that time. So just being in this special container might cause some kind of pain to come up, either physical pain that goes, oh, I'm sitting. Oh yeah, I'm not meditating. I'm thinking about this stuff. I'm not present. Or boredom or frustration or whatever. And you go, I'm bored. I'm frustrated. I don't see the point to this. I'm not doing it well. Well, if you can make any one of those statements, you are present. I am is the key term there. I am bored. I am. And you're here. Great, you're bored, but you're here. So if this practice sounds good to you, I encourage you to try it in your next meditation. And if you do, here's one last thing. You can go into your meditation with the intention of naming each state of awareness so that you start to become familiar with these states of awareness that I'm talking about. Really test out what I'm saying. So you can set up meditation, and you can have an object of meditation that can be good to help you know if you're gone or not. But really the focus of this exercise will be to say, when you're in Sattva, Sattva, recognize it. Am I present? That's Sattva. I am in Sattva. When you get caught on a thought train, obviously you won't be able to say Rajas while you're in Rajas, because if you do, you're self-aware and you're in Sattva. But you can point to the past and say Rajas. You can say, that was Rajas. This is Sattva. And if you happen to fall asleep at all, you happen to nod off, then when you wake back up, you say, that was Tamas. That kind of dreamy thinking was Tamas. This is Sattva. And let that be your whole period. And when you're in Sattva, after you've said Sattva, you don't have to keep saying, I mean, if you want, you can keep saying Sattva, Sattva, Sattva. But you can also let go of that doing and see how Sattva stays on its own.